I'm Brandon, and I love Hallmark movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark movies.
I'm Eric, and I've read the scripts for several Hallmark movies.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast. We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Oh, it's a big day, Brand.
It's a big day for us.
It's a big day.
As founding members of the Erik Athavale fan club, this
That's
is
right.
a big day for us.
Especially the U.S. chapter. I'm sure in Canada it's just like a wildfire.
We don't have
like
any.
Just crazy.
We don't have any say over that. But this is a big day for us. This is really exciting. Even though I believe you went on Girls Gone Hallmark first before you went on our show.
There's that.
Is that
that's
right?
Fine.
I'm sorry, guys. I believe the proper terminology is Decky Award nominated podcast. Girls Gone Home.
Well, that's true.
That's right. Yes. They are. They did. They have. Didn't they win one year? They got more wins than we.
They won last. Yeah,
they have more Deckies than we do. We've never won one.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
tough.
shows you what.
That's tough.
We're not even good in our own business.
We're really bad. We're really bad. Eric, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming. We talked last year about doing something like this, but I'm excited that we're.
Yeah, and we couldn't afford you then.
Well,
So
the rider was crazy.
was
The
a good
rider
deal.
was
I
crazy.
fell on hard times, which
That's right.
worked out for your benefit.
We were supposed to send him a comb for his mustache.
I love
it
how
was a weird. I
in
can't-
this
like,
scenario, it's
crazy.
not that we had a good year and could afford them. It's that you had a bad year and now we can.
And now you met
That's nice.
our number,
Yeah.
which is fan. That was really nice of
That's,
you.
really
Eric, I don't want to heap too much praise on you, but you're kind of our favorite character actor around here. Your Hallmark's Christopher Walken, and I think you just are fantastic. And every time we see you in a movie, we get excited about it because if the movie's not good, we know you're still going to be doing a thing. You know what I mean? And so for us, it's really cool that you're here. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, guys. That's I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I'm certainly not going to turn it down. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely.
Before you were Hallmark's Christopher Walken, you were a child. You were born at one point.
That's right.
And you did baby stuff and child stuff.
Baby
What
stuff.
were you? Where were you born? What were you like as a child? And kind of when did you realize you liked performing?
Yeah, sure. I was born in Windsor, Ontario, which for Americans is across a bridge to Detroit. Very quickly moved to a place called Thompson, Manitoba when I was like 6 months old. Did not make the move myself. My parents came along. My oldest came along. Lived there for most of my elementary school years and then moved to Winnipeg, which is where I'm based now, and have lived here all but 1 year of the rest of my life. I lived in Thailand and taught English there for a year. But besides that, I've been in Winnipeg for a very long time. What was I like as a child? I was a lot. Probably won't surprise anybody. But in Thompson especially, and then later on in Winnipeg, I just didn't have an outlet for it. I came to acting a little bit later. Had gone into theater in university and then changed course for various reasons, and then came back to it about, I want to say 12 years ago, decided to give it a go, and in film and television, and luckily people keep paying me to do that. If
you think we're just going to skate over, went to Thailand and taught English for a year, you're crazy.
Let's do it. That's it. Hey, I put it all out there, guys.
I appreciate it. And you didn't move at 6 months old by yourself, so you're taking handouts, and that's fine. I mean, it's each his own. But it's
the Canadian way.
What brought you to Thailand? Like what brought you to Thailand for a year of English? Was it mission work? Was it just like this is a sweet paying gig? What was it?
Well, I mean, we might hit on this a couple different times, but my parents were both educators. My dad was a guidance counselor in a junior high, and my mom was an elementary school teacher who focused on special education, and both of them were kind of getting to retirement age at about the time that I had a pretty formative breakup. And my mom's advice to me was, I think you need to get out of the country and do something on your own and be independent and have a real great experience. And one of the ways that she and my dad were looking at their retirement plan was they were going to quit their or retire from their 9-to-5s, but then do teaching engagements in other countries. So she had a stack of books of like different brochures of where you can teach English in other countries across the world. And she said, some of these need an education degree, which I didn't have, but I had 2 years of an education degree under my belt, so I was somewhat familiar. She said some of them have higher or lower restrictions, so why don't you go through them, research the ones that you want to do, and maybe apply and see if that's a way that you can kind of get this escape. And I took the first book, and it was Thailand, and they said yes, and I left.
Wow. Just like that.
How about that?
Just like that.
Man.
Literally, the conversation between the conversation and the flight were about a month apart.
That
Wow.
is some breakup. Did you break up with them? Or
Oh
they
my
broke
God,
up
you're
with
getting
you?
into it right here.
Yeah, geez. What did I open? I want to say it was mutual for pride.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
pride. I love that. That's
That's
a great answer. Good answer.
Uh,
I'm an educator for 20. I've been an educator for 20 years, Eric. So I mean, I get it. So props to both your parents. I mean, a full career of that is something. That's fantastic.
Yeah, they had some great adventures in their retirement that still kept them close to what had driven them for their entire career. So I thought that was great.
I love that.
I imagine that was a pretty big year. Like that's what did you take away from that year in Thailand?
That eventually I was going to get over the breakup.
Yeah.
Also was, my parents, it's funny. I lived on my own for about 2 years before that in my parents' house because they had already started part of that retirement plan. They were working in a place called Arviat Nunavut, which is, if you look at a map of Canada and you look at where Winnipeg is, keep going north.
Wow.
You're so sweet to think that we would know where
Where
Winnipeg
Winnipeg is in
That's-
America.
Okay,
We're
if you look at the map of the
Americans.
United States and you find Fargo,
Yeah.
imagine there's something above that.
Okay. Wow. It's fascinating.
Imagine a land above that.
The real Great White North is where they were
Yeah.
headed.
Our producer's pulling up a Canadian map, which
This is
super
really
kind.
helpful. We have it on the big screen
Right.
where we can
Oh,
see
that's
it.
awesome.
This is
So
Winnipeg,
okay.
got it.
Yeah, Winnipeg, great.
Yeah.
So Arviat is in Nunavut, which is the territory above Manitoba,
Phew.
which the province Winnipeg's in. I feel like I've lost 50% of your listeners have tuned out.
That's kind. 50 is kind.
But they were very far up north when we were having this conversation. So I was living on my own, but still, it was mom and dad's house. It was,
Yeah.
it wasn't the real experience. And that was, I think, the biggest thing for me is I was alone in a foreign country and had to figure it out on my own. And so
Man.
a lot of the lessons that I learned there were no matter how badly you screw it up, you're going to be okay.
That's a good
I
lesson.
love that. That's just good advice in general. So basically in 2011, 12, 13, somewhere in there, you decide, I think I'm going to do this. I'm just going to act. What leads you back? I mean, so many people that we have on here, it's like, well, I was in a production of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I was Mr. Tumnus's understudy, and I was 5 years old, and from that point forward, I got one applause line, and that was it. That doesn't sound like your story. It sounds like you liked it, but it wasn't really like on the front burner, so to speak, and then all of a sudden it became that. What was that like? What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, I was I was the star in my high school drama class. I don't mind saying that.
I mean, the stud, this guy.
Wow.
And
Humble too.
What was the role that made you the star?
there was no specific big production. We did a lot of like smaller
One act.
one act kind of things. But I was very good, and I had done a little bit of children's theater here locally. So I went into university, even though I went in with an education major. I did a theater minor and was intending to either go into theater or be a theater teacher, one or the other. And ideally, at that time, both. I had a professor. The short version is I had a professor who in a performance class made me feel like I was a bad actor.
Oh, no.
And and so that stuck with me. I'm very hard on myself by nature and took it really personally. So I thought, if this expert says I'm not good, they must be right. And so I walked away from theater.
Buddy.
I did walk towards marketing, which was a bit of a blessing because I had and still have a pretty great career in marketing and advertising. And I've been very fortunate. So I didn't, I landed on my feet, obviously, but for 15 years, approximately, I just said, I don't think that was for me, and it was never meant to be, until I went to visit a friend of mine in New York. And he and his then wife No, sorry, still wife.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Dan was gonna follow up
Yeah.
on that too.
Yeah.
So when you guys
broke up with who?
when you guys broke up, like was it a note
Yeah.
or was it more in person? Or?
They were married at the time. I was doing the mental math of where they married. They were definitely married at the time, and I misspoke.
And they
So
still are, and
he
we
and his
love
wife-
that. We love that.
I know. He and his wife were living in New York, paying their bills off of acting income, and both of them were, neither of them were living in penthouses and this and that, but they were doing it. They were doing it, this very blue collar job that I've kind of learned that acting is. They were doing it and they loved it. And I was on the flight on the way home with my wife after hearing their stories of what their experiences were like. And I turned around to my wife and I just said the words, I just gave up. And she had no idea what I was talking about, I don't think, because I didn't give her context. But I enrolled at a local acting studio for classes the week after we landed back home, and my career started shortly after that. So I've been doing this since then.
So I did math in my head, Eric, and you said you did marketing for 15 years and this for 13, and that was after university. Doing some quick math, even though it's not on your IMDb, how old you are, and if you're not watching on Philo TV. He looks younger than me. Like you look like you couldn't possibly have had all of that happen to you in your life. I'm not being kind. I'm just being honest. Like you don't look old enough for that. Like, am I getting the math wrong here? Am I getting it wrong?
No, good clean living, man. Good clean linen and a good skincare routine.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
How about that? So you start taking some acting classes, and then where do you go from there? Like, do you get a manager who's getting you some auditions, or are you just grinding and trying to be like, I can do this, and trying to just find places where you can?
Yeah, so I have managed to do everything that I've managed to do based in Winnipeg,
Wow.
which is a smaller market within Canada. And an even smaller market when it comes to acting within Canada. But my timing was actually pretty good because Winnipeg and Manitoba's film industry happened to be growing exponentially growing just when I started exploring this as an option. That's pure coincidence. I didn't have the foresight to say I see it on the rise here, so I'm going to jump in while it's getting hotter. Just out of sheer coincidence that happened. So I got a commercial about a year after I started taking classes, like a very small commercial for a local outfit, and started booking small roles without an agent. And this is, I think, the only market in North America where that actually happens.
Yeah.
And probably not a great thing. If you ask me. But it was an entry point where I was able to actually see more of a side of the business that a lot of actors who have that buffer don't get to see necessarily. I got an agent. I got wise and got an agent several years later when more work was coming my way. But slow, the path has been slow and progressive, but has gained momentum over the last few years.
Well,
so the joke that I offer is that I've been doing this for 12 years and about 5 of them have been fruitful.
Well, you said it's been picking up. If you could guess, because I counted based on IMDb, which could be wrong, how many, if every episode counts as its own, of a television show counts as its own appearance, since 2020, Eric, how many appearances on television or in TV movies have you made according to IMDb? Could you guess?
I mean, it's upwards of 20 for sure. But I don't have a good guess. I'm gonna guess 25.
It's 51.
Whoa.
Now you have 14 episodes of a show called Acting Good, which so even if you take that out, which I don't know how big of I don't know what that is, but 37, including some of the best Hallmark movies ever made, also some theatrical releases, which I have to talk to you about. So in the last 5 years, and you don't leave Winnipeg. Like this is I've got a family and I've got a marketing job and I'm going to schedule my appearances around all of that. I'm not going to Vancouver. I'm not going to Toronto. I'm not going to LA. You're just in Winnipeg and popping up 10 times a year. Am I getting that correct?
Partially.
Okay.
So the haven't left Winnipeg is not necessarily by choice. It's a nomadic profession. I've just been fortunate enough that there's been enough activity in Winnipeg to keep me busy. But I do have, I don't think I can talk about it today, but I will be sure to let you guys know in the next month or two. I do have a show that I shot out of Montreal. It's a US based comedy and that shoots in Montreal. Please don't do the math here to try to unveil it, but I'll let people know when that credit is coming up through social, and I'll be sure to reach out to you guys. So
I can't
you know,
wait.
I and a few other actors in Manitoba, just like actors in Toronto and Vancouver, do travel from time to time. But the vast majority of the work that I've been able to do, I've been really lucky to be able to do within driving range of my house.
That's awesome.
That's unbelievable.
That's the dream right there.
Yeah, it is.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, your story is so lovely, mainly because at one point someone told you that you couldn't, and now here you are.
That's
doing
right.
it.
How you like me now, theater teacher?
How do you like me now? Have you reached out and been like, hey, suck a duck? Like, look at all these, like, your boys over here getting 50 creds since 2020. I
That's
feel
really
like
more than 10 because 2025 just started.
That's true.
That's 51 credits in 4 years.
I mean,
That's
we've been
insane.
talking for 15 minutes. I feel like this is probably something that you haven't done, but I will give you the time if you want to. But
right now, if you want to call that teacher out by name, now's the time.
That's gotta feel like it's gotta feel pretty good, like to just be like,
Yeah,
I'm
it does.
actually doing this thing, which I was told that I can't do.
Yeah, it feels. Thanks for saying that. It feels really great, and in true Canadian fashion, instead of going back and knocking on their door and saying how you like me now, I passive aggressively appear on podcasts and tell that story.
Is there a teacher you want to thank since you're here?
No, none come to mind.
So you do have a few early credits from Hallmark early on that are, I think, pretty small parts. And we're a little bit, I want to make sure I have time to talk about the stuff I want to have time to talk about. But early on, you're auditioning for all of this. Yes. Like you're just going on. And I usually ask, do you have a particularly bad audition you like to share? But if you are, maybe you go into every audition and you're your own worst critic, maybe that's not something that you clock as an actor. Cause you just think, oh, I'm like,
they're all bad,
Yeah. I actually, most of my auditions have been okay. I haven't had a disaster audition. I can think of one or two, not in the Hallmark sphere, where I walked in and I did my thing and literally it just didn't register on the director's face like that, like even in the room. I've had a couple of those, but it wasn't because I was exceptionally bad. It just, I didn't do anything. Yeah, it wasn't their thing. Probably wasn't my thing either. The ones I'm thinking of, but no, I'm, for the record, I'm still auditioning. Every film that you're seeing,
Hallmark. You still have to audition for Hallmark, Erik?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
of course. That's the job. Hey, that's the job. That's the job. That is honestly, and I know this, I'm ripping off a Bryan Cranston meme right now, but that is the job. My job is to go in and tell them within this cast, within this ensemble, here's the version of this character that you've asked me to read that I think would fit in that world. And it's their job to say, I think that'll fit in this world or not. So
that is wild.
No humility. I'm not trying to be, I love that part of the process of me saying, I've got an idea for this, and them saying, we love that idea.
So many Hallmark movies I want to talk to you about, but you mentioned Bryan Cranston, and he worked with Bob Odenkirk for quite a while, and then you worked on Nobody, one of my favorite action movies of all time, and you were there. Like, you were on the set of that film.
Sure was.
I know we've got plenty to talk about where you're going to be amazing. I promise you. I have to just hear like what that was like.
It was great. A lot of my experience with Nobody was vicarious because my part, while formative in that movie, I'm really proud of it. It's tiny, but it's
really good
movie. So I'm really proud of the involvement that I had there and the opportunity that I had. But it was small. But almost every single person who worked in that movie, from the hair and makeup department, from the costumes department, the crew, the stunt coordinators, are people in this community that I've worked with
that's
over
awesome.
and over. So the stories that it wouldn't be firsthand knowledge, but the stories that I've heard about their experiences with Bob and Christopher Lloyd and Riza on that set have been like phenomenal. Everybody, they were a class act, and if it's a testimony at all to Bob Odenkirk and what he brought to this community, he just wrapped on Nobody 2, which
Yep.
also filmed again in Winnipeg, and a film called what's it called? Normal. That I believe is called Normal. If I misquoted that, then yeah, somebody get at me in the comments. But he back to back he filmed 2 features in Winnipeg, and was curling at the local curling club and doing
Of course.
charity performances. He's a great guy. He was great on set, really approachable, really friendly, and certainly proved to be a great ambassador for this city.
It's a fantastic movie, and you're great in it. Like, you really are.
And I can't wait to see you in Nobody too.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, he's shrugging. He's not saying no.
It's just true.
He's just shrugging.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to go watch Nobody 2 with.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you at the theater to see Nobody 2.
In the Nobody 2 theater. Yeah,
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Let's talk a bit about Hallmark. Do you remember your first Hallmark flick and how it came to be?
I think it was Christmas Connection. I don't quote me on that if there was an earlier one, but I'm pretty sure it was Christmas Connection. And I had a small role as a shopkeeper. Director was Stephen Monroe, who I would work with again on Winter Getaway.
Winter Getaway, yeah.
With the lovely Nazneen contractor, who's a good friend, and had a great experience on that. But those early, I will say those early credits, I hadn't quite found, as artsy fartsy as this might sound, I hadn't quite found my Hallmark voice yet. So I was very happy to be there and trying to fit into the proverbial woodwork of a Hallmark movie. And while I'm proud of it, it certainly started to pave the way of me being more comfortable on those sets and doing some of the roles that I think are a little bit more memorable and more indicative of what I love to do.
Well, I can tell you this, and this is just my take, but I do have a question in this, Eric. I would love to know when you found that. I think, have you seen a movie called Galaxy Quest by any chance?
I'm sure I saw it. I can't remember it well, but I am familiar with Galaxy Quest.
It's one of my favorite movies. Sam Rockwell in that movie is this character actor that is not supposed to be, like, the short version is he's in over his head. He's not supposed to be there. And he's hysterical in the movie. There's all of these big names, but then Sam Rockwell, who now is a big name himself, he just kind of steals it by doing this very eccentric thing that really fits in the ensemble and does it perfectly. That's kind of like, his name's Guy Fleegman in that, but the Guy Fleegman role, which is so hard to do and make memorable, like movies that I've seen 500 of these. I maybe have like 20 of them. Hallmark movies and movies that we hold in high esteem around here. Crashing Through the Snow, Love Strikes Twice, Holiday Hotline, like Santa Summit. These movies that like are the exception to the rule. Like, all of them involve you doing your thing in these Haunted Wedding, all these movies. So
Christmas Cookie Catastrophe.
Yeah, okay, well, they're not all. My question is when did you find that? Because you're not the same character in all of these movies, but you do have, like, even in Christmas Uncalled, like, you have this very distinct mustache, more than the current mustache you have now. It's a really funny role with these people arguing in this neighborhood. But where did you find that groove? You said I hadn't found the groove yet on Christmas Connection. Like, when did you find it and start to really get it?
Yeah, I can't pinpoint a time. I think the confidence of getting a few roles and getting some stuff under my belt and realizing that I could take slightly more and more risks in auditions, not just in Hallmark auditions, but other auditions, and bring a little bit more and be a little bit more out there, gave me confidence to try more stuff in the room. But I would point to Jeff Beasley, who directed a number of the movies that you just mentioned. And in fact, Haunted Wedding and Christmas on Call were the 9th and 10th project that he and I have worked on together. He's really found a niche in Hallmark as being the guy who can bring humor out like nobody else. His repertoire is really incredible, and he really believes in the actors in this community in particular, but also in the Hallmark stable of actors, of being able to give them material that they haven't traditionally had in Hallmark movies, of being able to actually go for laughs and stuff. So I think when Jeff started not only taking a shine to what I brought in the room, but encouraging me to push it a little bit further, when I would have callbacks with him in auditions, and he'd be like, "Yeah, lean into that. Let's do more of that, and really show Hallmark what we can do with this." At first I needed somebody to hold my hand and say, "This is okay," and then now I get to go in the room when I'm auditioning or doing a callback with Jeff, and show him that without him having to ask it. So I would point to him as being a catalyst for that.
Do you remember the first character that you played on a Hallmark movie where you were like, that's a really fun one. That's a fun character that I created to live in this space?
The first, wow, probably, I want to say maybe it was Winter Getaway, because there were aspects of that character. I think Hallmark is experiencing a bit of its own renaissance, which might be something that you guys have glommed onto in terms of some of the that you said that you liked. A lot of them are newer movies, and they're not necessarily territory that Hallmark would have gone before, and they don't showcase the kind of ensemble casts that Hallmark is really embracing now. So, when I look back at some of the earlier stuff, the role of a Hallmark supporting actor was really to kind of fit into the tapestry behind the two leads and to let them shine at the forefront. And now it's to amplify what those leads are doing. And that's when that turn happened to be happening around that time with Winter Getaway. So the role of the concierge in the hotel who happens to be around and give sage advice could have been one of those roles that, you just kind of say the lines and get out of everybody's way. But, I decided to make the choice that he's the guy who enjoys all the things that this mistaken identity guy doesn't actually enjoy. And that was just something that I think brought out a different color in that character. And I think I look for those opportunities in Hallmark roles now to be, not to try and steal focus or to take the shine away from the main story. I don't want to detract from that. We're all there to tell one story, but to amplify that story so that there's other points of interest just besides, my ex-wife or my dead wife isn't here anymore and I'm in love. Other things are happening too.
That's right. Believe it or not. Erik, that's fantastic. You are not solely in Hallmark movies. I mean, you are in other stuff, Violent Night. You're in also other TV Christmas movies that are not made by Hallmark or for Hallmark. We've covered them occasionally. Sometimes you'll reach out and tell us how much you enjoyed it, even if it is a less than stellar review for the film, which you're great about. Do you notice, what are the big differences? Hallmark has set quite a standard, and we hear often about how it's amazing how they have this thing running like a machine, this 15-day shoot. They get all this stuff done. And then I've talked to, cinematographers who are working on movies that aren't made by Hallmark, and it's like, it's a different experience. And I know that you appreciate all of the experiences that you have. Is there a difference, monetary or otherwise, not for in your pocket, but like on the set and in what you're allowed to do, between working on a Hallmark Christmas movie and a Christmas movie that may find its way to the Roku channel or be acquired by Prime or just be shown in Canada?
But also, what was your net take home last year?
Yeah.
If you
net.
also share
I don't care about gross after the taxes, because I know Canada kills you on the taxes.
That's right.
They really do, guys. They really do. It hurts. It hurts that you would go to net.
But how's that healthcare?
You can do gross.
How's
if you
that
want.
healthcare treating you, Erik? You're fit as
Pretty
a fiddle.
good. I break a bone every year just so that I can take.
Yeah.
Well, you have to
You
you have to make it back.
Yeah.
If I'm going to give
You
it
really
to you,
do.
you got to make it back.
That's
I
right,
get it.
yeah.
I get it.
You
Anyway,
really
go
do.
back to
Yeah.
Dan's
Sorry, go ahead.
nice question.
What was the? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if the budgets are that drastically different. To be honest, that's outside of my of what I care to find out. Quite frankly, I'm just there for the day, guys. But what I really feel is the difference, and that you really feel it on set. You feel it from the moment that you get the script. Is that Hallmark knows its voice.
Mm.
Perhaps better than any of these other folks that are you know, I'll say dabbling. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but this type of movie, and especially that season, is what Hallmark has built their media empire on. And other people have added that to
Mhm.
what they do. So whether, you know, without naming names, whether it's another network or whether it's another streamer that has decided we're going to do Hallmark style movies, they're chasing the market leader. And Hallmark's got, whether it's written or unwritten, a playbook that everybody understands, you know, how Christmassy Christmas needs to look, how many references need to be in a movie for you to know that it's a Christmas movie. And everybody's, it's not for everybody. I think that's fair to say. But for those of us who buy into it and enjoy being in and making those movies, it's really clear to us what we're all building towards in there. And I think that really helps for the smooth sailing when you're on set with a Hallmark movie in particular.
In 2023, you did 2 movies back to back, with the Santa Summit and Holiday Hotline that were well quite the back to back, but also 2 characters
Oh
that
my God.
stole the show.
Yeah.
And both were so distinct and both felt so lived in and were both so wonderful. And I just, that was when we really were like, this guy.
Who is this guy?
This guy is really
That's
doing
exactly
something.
right.
I'm still bitter I didn't win the Decky for that year.
Well, yeah, and you
I
should
don't.
be.
You were robbed. I don't even know who won it. That's crazy.
Do you remember? Do you have their name down?
Do I remember? Yeah, I do. But you know, again,
Who was it? We can look it up, Eric. Just tell us who was it.
Oh yeah. Well, then feel free to look it up.
This guy. Was it? Is it on us that we didn't like that? That was like a standout to us, or did you feel it? Like in 2023, did you start to feel like maybe
also
a little
wasn't
bit
made
more
for each other in 2023,
That's right.
which is really hysterical.
Did you feel like I'll say last year, 2023 was like, hey, things are really starting to move a bit in this space, and I feel like people are starting to notice that I'm actually doing fun stuff with these characters.
I think I was surprised by people noticing it, but there was definitely a feeling that I had while reading for it and auditioning for it. I had a really specific view for Dasher in Santa Summit of being my thought was it would be very interesting for me as a viewer to watch somebody the way I watch Hallmark movies be in a Hallmark movie, which is to be the person that says, come on. To the lead in that Hallmark movie, and the line is right there where Dasher gets to say, "You gotta snap out of this and like look at what's going on." Right? So I took that line from Russell Hainline and really lean into that as kind of the inspiration for the character of he sees the forest for the trees for Jordan's character in Santa Summit. The Roger character in Holiday Hotline. For sure, I saw again. It was one of those characters that could have just been there to provide the exposition and context of what was going on, so the viewer can follow along with this dual personality. But I saw the opportunity for there to be a small love story between him and the lead in the call center, platonic love, but still a love story. And so you know, as much as I want to take credit, and I do, for the performances, if it's not on the page for that to be there, it's so much harder for that to come out. And so I think this shift that Hallmark is taking and embracing those stories that have these characters that really amplify the story as opposed to just filling in the blanks has allowed a person and a performer like me to step into those roles and really make them everything that we possibly can.
Who are the what are the kind of movies that you like? Like, what movies do you enjoy?
Oh, wow.
What comedic actors do you find to be like extraordinary, if you have any off the top of your head?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Movie. The genre of movies that I like is pretty wide. So I can't turn around and say I'm an action movie guy exclusively or this or that. All of my comedy inspiration, or at least my formative comedy inspiration, comes from Chuck Jones' Looney Tunes.
Oh,
stuff.
wow. Okay.
So, everything that I aspire to, I don't think I've hit it yet, but everything I aspire to in both timing and big wild takes as well as small moments, you can find. I am ripping off the Coyote and the Roadrunner constantly, constantly, and
I
I make
love
no.
it.
But that is, to me, one of the best examples of comedic timing that we have on film.
Did you get to watch
But
SCTV growing up at all?
I did. It wasn't as big of like Saturday Night Live was a bigger part of my, ironically, terrible Canadian.
How dare
Um,
you? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
know.
tough. That's tough for
It
you.
was just, it was more formative. Like the Phil Hartman
Yeah.
was what I kind of grew up on. I came to SCTV a little bit later in my quote unquote comedy discovery, but yeah, sketch comedy's always been something that I've gravitated towards. Improv comedy was something that I discovered a little bit later in life, and anytime that I'm in LA or New York, my wife knows we're taking at least a day or two to go to one of the theater, whether it's UCB or Groundlings or Second City.
Wow.
And
Oh, I feel like you'd fit right in there. I feel like you'd love that.
I really would. I would love the opportunity at least to be there. Yeah.
And we did
Well,
look
you're
up,
only in your 20s,
Yeah.
best my math, so I
and
think you still got time.
You're no
That's
Melissa.
right, casting. I'm only in my 20s.
You're
Unless
no
you mean
Melissa.
30.
You're no Melissa Peterman. That's what I learned in 2023.
That's a name I've heard before.
But if you're Eric, I got to be honest. I was wondering how you lost, and then you see Melissa Peterman, like Fargo Melissa Peterman, like sitcom comedy royalty Melissa Peterman.
Royalty.
That's pretty good company to be in, I would say.
It's very good company to be in.
And we don't vote. We don't vote on the thing. Just full disclosure, we don't vote. But
There's the flaw in the process. That's
Yeah.
why neither of us have won.
But what's wild?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
probably it.
I'd still vote for Melissa, and I think and I want that on the record.
I gotta
I
be
don't
honest.
want her to get mad at us.
If you watch her in the first Hall at the Holly, which is what she won for,
Yeah.
and then you compare that, the problem is you had two movies. I think
it's tough.
if all of your
Per capita.
star wattage was behind one movie, I think the fact that you were in two probably cost you. That would be my guess. But Melissa Peterman, that's pretty good. And I would wager to say you finished second. And I have no way of finding that information out, but I would wager to say you finished second. So
There is no shame in losing to Melissa Peterman.
There you go.
no
There you go.
kidding.
2024, you were in a Haunted Wedding and then
Come
you were
on.
in Christmas on Call. Now, the thing that I love about those two movies is that you got to kind of flex a little bit more of the
Rom-com.
rom.
That's right.
You added some more rom to that com.
That's right.
In both of those movies, which was a big win for us, the
Yeah.
viewers. And I have to be honest, in both cases, I cared so much about your rom that I kind of forgot about what the main love stories were in both of those because I was so invested. That's gotta be great, right? You're getting to kind of flex the rom muscles, which you clearly have, but also you're adding the calm to that, which a lot of times these movies don't. Like the love stories are the love stories, and then if there is comedy, it's happening around, and so. I loved both of those stories so much, and that had to be such a fun experience for you to kind of get to do at this point.
Yeah, it was great, and I'm glad that folks like you who digest these so often notice that because it was a shift. I was very excited. Those were my first two Hallmark on-screen kisses, and they let me kiss the girl. It was really, really nice. And as a vote of confidence, guys, come on.
You're
like
happily
just-
married, man. This is above board here.
It's above
It's
board.
acting. It's above board,
above
everybody.
It was totally. She saw the paycheck. My wife saw the paycheck. It was a real deal. It was nice that Hallmark also saw me go in the room and audition for those roles and say, I can do this too, and that they saw that vision. So, they weren't writing in a kiss for Roger in the call center. That would have been a very different movie about workplace ethics and stuff like that. So, but it fit in in these movies, and you needed to be able to buy into those love stories, because like I said, those stories are broader and there's more going on, and we want to be able to amplify and get as much out of that cast as possible. So I was really excited to be doing that. One of the things that I've really loved, though, is that it was really the best of both worlds. So traditionally, the romance is just, the leads in the movie are having the romance and everybody else is dancing around them. So to have, and I'm really flattered by that, to have a secondary romance that the audience can actually get invested into is great. But these supporting characters get to have so much fun and get to be a little broader and get to be a little bit wilder than the leads have traditionally been allowed to be. And I think that gap is closing. But boy, did I get to dance around the fringes in both of those movies and have a blast in doing that. So
I used to watch, these movies in the 2010s and go, the supporting cast was here for maybe 5 of the 15 days. But when I watch the movies now, particularly the 2 that we just referenced, Christmas on Call. Well, Christmas on Call has got like 8 or 9 storylines, but like Holiday Hotline and Haunted Wedding and A Santa Summit, Holiday Hotline and Haunted Wedding, it seems like supporting is supporting in the purest sense, but you're there for a lot of that film. How many days are you shooting on these movies?
It's probably not as many as you think.
Really?
Because Hallmark, as this efficient machine, the short answer is somewhere between 3 and 7.
Okay.
And I'm plus or minus 1 or 2. But like that's not atypical. But Hallmark as a machine is so good at pinpointing efficiency and locations, because they have to be.
Yeah.
Because with 15-day shoot, you just got to make it happen, and big set moves just don't play into that. So, I will say that we got, I might be too in the weeds in here, but there's a big set piece at the end of the Santa Summit, where everybody's on stage.
Yes.
And you get a quick shot of Dasher in the crowd.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the tree. That was an extra shoot day that the producers and some of the crew fought for me to get onto.
Oh, look at that.
I wasn't originally supposed to be into that. And one crew member in particular, Nathan, who might hear this someday, so I want to make sure I acknowledge him, talked to the producers at Inferno and said, I think Dasher needs to be in this final piece, because I think based on what we've done over the shoot, the audience will want to say goodbye to him. And they bought in. And what I was charged with from Lisa, who was one of the producers at Inferno, when she approved that request, was I better get at least one extra laugh out of this. And we did that.
Man, that's
I
awesome.
love that.
Is it rapid fire time?
I do really quickly before rapid fire. Sanjay mustache. That was your call, right? That was your call.
The stash?
Did you have to fight for that?
The mustache was my call.
Did they push back at all?
They did not push back, because it was I was on another set that had established the mustache, so it was either mustache or no Erik. And I'd like.
So you're really throwing it around there. Like you get the stash and Erik or neither, but could it have been that comedy he was shooting in Montreal? Maybe that was the other set he was on. We don't know, and we wouldn't even know where to begin.
There's no way to find out, and we couldn't be like, we don't have enough time.
Fair enough. That's the answer to that, I think.
I love it.
I love that
What a
stash
guy.
so much. I love that character so much.
Yeah,
so
it's a good
Thanks.
character.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Let's rapid fire. We're
It's
just going to
rapid fire
ask you
time.
3 questions that can be about anything. You got to answer quickly if you want to. Go ahead, Dan.
If I'm going to eat one meal in Winnipeg, what am I eating?
You're going to Clementine's, which is a brunch spot.
Okay.
And you are having literally anything on the menu. You can't miss.
Clementine's. Got it. Shout out.
What skincare regimen do you do, and can you help me out?
Grown Alchemist. Absolutely anything my wife buys for me and puts on my counter and says, use this because your skin needs it.
Yeah. Could she send some down to South Carolina?
Yes, she
For
can.
the boy brand. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right down
An
to South
online
Carolina.
shopping wizard.
I love it. Pitch me how you would pitch Hallmark for you to be the lead in a rom-com for them.
You're tired of handsome guys, right? Handsome's boring.
Well, I'll just say this: if they're hiring Tyler Hines, I don't see why they can't hire you.
No
The
kidding.
same amount of
6
handsome.
of one, half dozen of
That's
the other.
exactly
really.
right. That's exactly right.
That's right.
Are you a sport boy? And if so, what's your sport?
Love basketball.
Oh,
Oh.
do you?
Oh, I coached basketball for 20 years, and he's a big
Oh,
NBA
nice.
guy.
Me
Yeah.
and another actor, I don't know if you know him, Antonio Cayon, we host an NBA podcast together. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that.
You
out.
gotta
You
go on
can-
the pod. I
you can
think
come
you'd have a
on. We can
blast.
talk basketball.
Great. Yeah, love it. Love it.
Fantastic. What's we don't do guilty pleasure TV because our entire job is watching Hallmark movies. But what's the thing when you're not the marketing guru or you're not coming up with the next quirky character for Hallmark? What's the thing that you and your wife sit around and you watch or you binge on Netflix or whatever you guys have up there in Canada? Netflix Canada. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. No, we have Netflix is like a global thing, guys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. We watch a lot of stuff, and none of it's particularly bad or embarrassing kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of the last thing that we watched that we're like, I can't believe we're watching this and loving it.
Well,
so
what are you
much. But,
watching right now that you're loving? It doesn't have to be bad.
we just finished Day of the Jackal.
Okay. Oh yeah, I hear it's really good with Eddie Redmayne. Yeah.
Yeah, with Eddie Redmayne, and it was excellent. And I think my wife isn't usually into tense stuff like that, edge of your seat stuff, because she gets stressed out quite a bit more than I do. But she loved Killing Eve, and there was something about the cat and mouse relationship that's inherent in both of those shows that we tend to watch together a lot, and that works for us. So I would say those two shows in particular are things that we've enjoyed watching together.
Last question: if you're going to compete in any a reality competition show, which show would it be, and do you think you would win?
I don't even know what show it would be yet, and I don't think I would win.
Let's maybe we can go on let's go on The Amazing Race together, you and me.
I would
man.
love race. I would love to do that. Survivor's not for me. I think I want to be a Survivor guy, and I know deep in my heart I'm bailing.
I've been really into
Like-
Survivor. I came to the show late, and I know enough about myself to know that I wouldn't make it, but there is a part of me that's like, I think I could do it.
I have no desire. Amazing Race, yes. Survivor, no. No, I'm good. Thanks.
I will say, and this is mostly to shill for the network that brings us here together. Season 2 of Finding Mr. Christmas. I think I would be a great dark horse candidate on that show.
I would love for you to be a contestant on it, and then just be like, he's already done the thing.
With no comment necessary from you, Eric, I can already tell you based upon the results of season 1, you should have been in season 1. Eric, we talked about this a week ago, and I forgot to remind you before we started today. And if you don't remember, we can come back to this. But we like to spotlight a charity of the guest choice at the end of all of these interviews, and we're going to give $100 to it and tell you all to give money to it. Well, that sounded very underwhelming.
Wow,
we're not made of money here in South Carolina.
Is Brand just finding this out?
Yeah, he is just news.
It comes directly from my paycheck.
Eric, do you have a charity in mind for us, sir?
I do, and do you have a few seconds for me to?
Yeah, go for it.
So, when I said yes to this podcast, this was one of the biggest reasons for it, and I had a great conversation with my wife. As you guys know, and as your listeners are finding out, I'm always really nervous about appearances like this, so I don't always say yes. But I've been wanting to do this with you guys for a while, and the idea of this kind of charitable support that you guys add is what put me over the top on this. And your timing's great. Although you're not going to feel that way in a second. My father passed away in December.
Oh.
And it's been a rough couple months.
Sorry,
but he was really thank you, man. He was really philanthropically minded, and he was a board member for Save the Children Canada. And so if it's all right with you, I'd love if you guys can give that $100 in my father's name, which I'll text you, Erik Athavale, afterwards, to Save the Children Canada after this appearance. That would mean a lot to me.
An absolute no-brainer for us, Eric. I can tell you this. First of all, we're really sorry for your loss. He sounds like an amazing, amazing man, and you were lucky to spend your life with him. And having you on this podcast, Eric, every time we talk about anything good you do in any movie, one of the first things out of your mouth is how someone else directed it, someone else wrote it, someone else acted in it. So it is very clear that whatever giving spirit your father had is alive and well in you. And so thank you. Thanks for saying that, and thanks for being here. You're a lovely, lovely human, and we'd love to have you back here on the pod anytime. For sure.
Let's do it. I'd love it.
I will say you are going to have to win a decky first.
That's right.
To come back. So that's we'll see how it goes.
If we cancel you last minute, it's because we did book Melissa Peterman.
Yeah.
And it's not.
You know, the worst part of this all is, you know who was on Finding Mr. Christmas last year? Melissa Peterman.
Yeah, I do.
So that's tough. That's tough. It just keeps happening.
The
Keeps
hits
happening.
just keep on coming.
That's tough. This was so much fun and a long time coming, and it came.
Have you done this
Let's wrap it
before?
up. We'll be back next time with another one. Until then, we were the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast is produced by Aaron Shea. What? For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.